Good afternoon. I am David Lindstrom, Professor and Chair of the Department of Sociology. On behalf of the faculty and the staff of the Department of Sociology at Brown University, I welcome our graduating students, their families and friends to this part of the Brown graduation ceremony. This is the 246th commencement at Brown University. The Sociology Department shares in this rich and festive tradition. Sociology first appeared in the Brown curriculum in 1891. The first sociology PhD degree was awarded in 1909, making this the 105th anniversary of sociology at Brown. Let me introduce the Sociology Department faculty. Will members of the faculty please stand? We have 20 faculty members in addition to the 2 concentrations in sociology. Our faculty direct or are closely involved in 7 other concentrations on campus. So the majority of our faculty are spread out over campus today, presiding over ceremonies like this all over campus. I'd also like to introduce Nancy Hyde, who's representing the Board of Trustees for us at today's ceremony. Thank you. And I'd like to acknowledge awards that were won this year by 2 of our faculty. Professor Michael Kennedy, the concentration advisor. Professor Kennedy was awarded the Barrett Hazeltine Citation for excellence in teaching, guidance, and support. And I'd also like to recognize Carrie Spearin, Visiting Assistant Professor of Sociology, and our other concentration advisor. Professor Spearin was awarded by the Undergraduate Council of Students the Teaching and Advising Award. I also want to thank the Sociology Department staff for their tremendous assistance to the students graduating today and for making all the arrangements for this wonderful occasion. Amanda Figgins and Shane Martin, would you stand up? And Joan Picard, the department coordinator, who could not be here today. I will now turn the program over to Professor Susan Short, the Director of Graduate Studies, who will announce our MA degree recipients, followed by the PhD degree recipients. Their degrees were officially conferred at the Graduate School commencement ceremony this morning. Now the Sociology Department recognizes them and their accomplishments in this ceremony. Professor Short.
Today I have the honor and joy of recognizing and celebrating those students graduating with their MA or PhD in sociology. I know I speak for all who are here today when I tell you, our graduates, that we are incredibly proud of your accomplishments. Today is the culmination of a long journey. It's a journey with a significant visible end product, a done, defended, and formatted MA or PhD thesis filled with seals and signatures. Less visible to others here today may be your impressive academic accomplishments. The MA and PhD graduates who sit before us today have distinguished themselves in the classroom, given talks and lectures. They are academic sociologists and public sociologists, many sharing their work broadly to make our world a more peaceful, just, and sustainable place. Today, we thank you and we celebrate you. As I read out the names of each graduate who is present today, I will read the title of their thesis or dissertation. Graduates, as I call your name, please come forward. the department has a small gift for each of you. Receiving the master's degree today, Ricarda Hammer. Sidewalk Socialism, Markets Between Law and Lucha. Thank you. Johnny A. Lotesta, the Rhode Island Democratic Party, a study of political party change. Michael W. Murphy, no beggars amongst them, primitive accumulation, land dispossession, and the impoverishment of the Narragansett Indians. Aaron Nisnik, residential mobility, employment loss, and the Great Recession. Meredith Pastel, fighting not to lose, fat acceptance, biosocialities, and the blogosphere. Ayalo A. Reda, trends and differentials of dramatic rise in family planning adoption in Ethiopia. And that concludes our MA degrees. Our PhD students. Dr. Iluminada Esther Hernandez Medina. While living and working in the Dominican Republic, Esther had opportunity to organize 3 participatory processes that shaped government and policy. Because she was deeply inspired by the richness of each of these processes, she decided to pursue a master's in public policy at Harvard and then a PhD in sociology at Brown. She wanted to study, in her words, the magic of public deliberation, to understand its potential, its limitations, and the ways in which it could help to inform a more effective and inclusive public policy in developing countries like her own. Earlier today, she was awarded her PhD for her dissertation, Urban Regime Change and Citizen Participation in Urban Policies, Conflict, Collaboration, and Corporatism in Mexico City, which was completed under the supervision of Patrick Heller. Esther will continue working as the Deputy Director for Planning and Development in the Dominican Republic's Tax Office. She reports that in her future free time, she also looks forward to returning to teaching and publishing results of her research. Congratulations, Esther. Dr. Erica J. Mullen. Erica came to Brown to do research related to immigration in the US. Before joining our PhD program, she had worked in the Boston office of the late Senator Edward Kennedy of Massachusetts, helping to resolve constituents' immigration-related problems involving visas, residency, and citizenship. Erica wrote a dissertation that she titled The Redistribution and Socioeconomic Mobility of Immigrants in America's Interior. This was completed under the supervision of Professor Michael White. Professor White remarks, Erica's dissertation makes use of multiple sources of US Census Bureau data to shed light on the phenomenon of immigrants moving to new destinations in the United States. Her dissertation research documents the ways in which labor market success for immigrants often varied by the size of the labor market area to which they moved. Her study helps tell a more complete story about how this new pattern of movement has helped advance the immigrant's socioeconomic position and thus achieve the American dream. After graduation, Erica will be working as a city research scientist in the New York City government's Office of Evaluation and Research within the Human Resources Administration Division of Social Services. Congratulations. Dr. Gayatri Singh. Before arriving at Brown, Gayatri studied with a Rhodes Scholarship at Oxford University, receiving interdisciplinary degrees in philosophy, politics, and economics, and a master's in forced migration studies. After working in South Africa at the University of Witwatersrand, she returned for PhD study to Brown, writing a dissertation that she titled Freedom to Move, Barriers to Stay, an examination of rural migrants' urban transition in contemporary India. She completed it under the supervision of Michael White. Professor White remarks, Gayatri's dissertation focused on new issues emerging in India as its big cities attract new arrivals. In particular, Gayatri's research has considered how to better measure urban poverty and migrant well-being, while also asking how new urban migrants, often from the disadvantaged countryside, do in Delhi and other major cities. Gayatri's research points to the persistent migrant disadvantage with regard to the provision of local services, even in the face of the migrants' own efforts to improve their living standards in the new setting. Gayatri reports that doing the dual track of demography and development at Brown gave her a broad intellectual grounding she needed to prepare for a career at the World Bank. Indeed, after graduation, Gayatri will continue her work with the World Bank as an urban specialist with East Asia and the Pacific region. Congratulations, Gayatri. Our next PhD graduate is Dr. Inku Subedi. Inku's background in psychology, anthropology, and sociology from Lafayette College and her intellectual interest in migration led her to Brown for PhD study. Her dissertation is titled Gender Differences in Migration, Marital Timing and Spousal Choice Within Marriage in Nepal, under the supervision of Professor Michael White. Professor White remarks, Inku examined the links between migration and marriage in Nepal because of changing economic conditions and gender roles, in turn influenced by the migration process away from their origin communities. The way in which Nepalese young people enter the economy and marriage has been changing. Inku's research demonstrates that these transformative effects of migration on marriage are extensive, documenting important differences for men and women. On the personal side, Inku reports that during her time in graduate school, she has learned the value of perseverance, willpower, and communication, as well as how to understand the world with a critical eye. After graduation, Inku will continue with her work as a freelance data and statistics consultant. Congratulations, Inku. Dr. Trina Vitayatil. After completing a Master's of Public Policy at Harvard, Trina opted to continue her graduate studies at Brown because Brown Sociology is a place where many scholars do research outside the US and study social inequality from a variety of methodological traditions. Trina titled her dissertation, The Politics of the Count, Caste in Contemporary India, which she completed under the supervision of Professor Leah Van Wey. Professor Van Wey remarks, Trina brings together aspects of sociology that often seem incompatible. She's a skilled analyst of quantitative data using complex statistical methods. At the same time, she's a skilled interviewer and qualitative researcher, showing the complexity of historical socio-political context in the lived experience of people today. Her work on caste, both her dissertation and earlier quantitative work, also shows her ability to navigate between two sometimes incompatible goals. She has produced a body of work of the highest scholarly quality, but also engages with public debates and advocates for an equitable society. After graduation, Trina will be starting as an assistant professor of global studies at Providence College. Congratulations, Trina. Our last PhD present this morning is Dr. Weiwei Zhang. Weiwei came to Brown with a master's degree and publications in highly regarded peer-reviewed journals in hand. She chose Brown for PhD study because she was interested in deepening her understanding of population dynamics and ethnic relations, especially in the context of residential distribution. And she did just that. Her dissertation is titled National Origin Differences in Asian Residential Patterns and Spatial Assimilation in the United States, Changes from 1970 to 2010, which was completed under the supervision of Professor John Logan. Professor Logan remarks, Weiwei's dissertation looks closely at the position of Asian immigrants in this country over the last 30 years. Her work challenges the notion of a Pan-Asian identity for these immigrants, given how different the situation of Asians is depending on the country they came from. Fortunately for us, Weiwei accepted a position at Brown as a postdoctoral research associate at the Population Studies and Training Center, where she will continue to do research. Welcome again to Brown, and congratulations, Weiwei. So that concludes the celebration of our graduate students. Congratulations to all. I know I speak for my faculty colleagues and all of us in sociology when I say we have enjoyed the long, sometimes arduous, often joyful, and always meaningful intellectual and personal journeys with you. We celebrate you today, wish you well in the future, and remind you that though many of you leave the hallowed halls of Maxey Hall, you are forever part of the community that is Brown Sociology. Congratulations.
Professor Michael Kennedy, the undergraduate concentration advisor, will now introduce students who are being awarded undergraduate degrees. This is the official Brown University ceremony for the award of undergraduate degrees.
Good afternoon. It is my honor and pleasure to recognize those graduating with their Bachelor of Arts and of Science in Sociology and in Social Analysis. We are fortunate to have a member of the corporation, Nancy Hyde, with us, thank you very much, to present diplomas to our graduates. As I say your name, please come to the podium to my left to accept your diploma. But first, a few words. I know you're surprised. We are going to miss this class of 2014. They are certainly distinguished with their immediate and longer-term destinations in mind. They leave our university with a set of critical thinking skills, agility in evidentiary reasoning, and a breadth of substantive knowledge characteristic of our discipline. But they are more than the typical undergraduate sociology concentrator. And that is evident not only in the number of awards they have received, although we do have 5 Phi Beta Kappas in the class, by the way. Where I am most impressed is the fact that these graduates have made sociology and their liberal arts education their own. They have undertaken what this university has to offer and channeled their mind, heart, and soul in ways that make their concentration advisors, Carrie Spearin and me, and all of our faculty deeply proud. Yet you, their family and friends, have reason to be proud not only because of how special your graduate is to you, but for how much respect, how much distinction your graduates have earned in the eyes of their teachers and of their peers. And you, our graduates, we will miss you. That is until we read your next tweet, see your next Facebook posting, or see you next here at Campus Dance, probably down here rather than up there. And we will smile, just as we will now smile, and actually let's hold our applause and just smile loudly, as we see you receive your diplomas. So now let the procession begin. As I call your name, please come on up. Anika Anwar. I know it's hard. Anika graduates today from both economics and sociology, and I am so glad that she has chosen to be with us. She has written a fine thesis on how women talk about others' characters. Stay here. based on what they wear. In fact, I have something else to say. In fact, it was so fine that she won the department's Sociological Methods Prize this year under the direction of Greg Elliott, with whom she has worked since her pre-orientation seminar. Her favorite experience in these years was in doing that thesis and getting feedback on it. And I would wish that future concentrators, when they stress in the middle of thesis writing, could hear your words. Certainly, to have you as a student in our department has been an inspiration for us, as it will be for those at RGA who discover that similar inspiration in working with you in New York. Best wishes, Amika. Emma Brandt. Emma has written an amazing thesis about Balinese dance and the struggle to figure its place in the world, defined by tourism and the search for the sacred. In fact, that is based on learning she has developed during her study abroad, exemplifying the ways in which good planning, an agile mind, and a dancer's way can combine to produce a thesis of breathtaking breadth and depth. In fact, you should all listen to her 2-minute rendition on our Sociology homepage, website, if you want to appreciate how to communicate sophisticated ideas in just a couple of minutes. She is the ideal academic, at least if I wish to look at our profession in a positive light. Congratulations. Brandon Burke. Brandon and I began corresponding while he was studying abroad, and it was one of those long-distance conversations that only whetted the appetite for the face-to-face. Brandon has a great sociological imagination and wrote a wonderful capstone on the dynamics of gender equality within the professional tennis world, a world he knows quite well. There may be no other who combines tennis and sociology so well, leading me to wonder if he weren't headed to law school ultimately, he might be developing a kind of sociology that would allow us to cover the net a little bit better than we manage. So congratulations. Stefan Dombrowski. Dombrowski. We have enough Poles in the audience that we can do it this way. Stefan is one of our December graduates whom I'm so glad to have seen find a home in sociology and international relations after his transfer here from Boulder in the spring of his sophomore year. He originally conceived his focus in terms of war's interdisciplinary study, but I'm so glad he could see in sociology the promise of its critical engagement. Indeed, he is part of a growing number in our discipline who find the exploration of war's origins, conditions, and consequences central to our responsibility as sociologists and as world citizens. As new forms of war continue and loom, I know I am not alone in seeing Stefan's interests critical for our common future. Congratulations. Jonah David. Jonah is a remarkable scholar, not just for the breadth of his scholarship, earning degrees in both music and in sociology, but for the ways in which his learning and commitments cross so many boundaries that need transgression. His volunteer work in the Rhode Island prisons, the thesis he wrote about it, and the album he produced that features the artistic genius of his collaborators within and beyond that adult correctional institute suggest his distinction. Go to songsfromwithin.org, no breaks in the line, to check out this album and to see and anticipate what Jonah's effects will be in the future. Watch for his mindfulness and take inspiration to extend your own and those around you. I have. Congratulations. Audrey Davis. If you want to see Audrey marching, it's already on Twitter. I caught a great picture of her. Given Audrey's leadership in Brown's track and field team, you might have expected her thesis to have been done on the run. Sorry, I couldn't resist that. To the contrary, Audrey has written an account of urban fiscal crisis under the guidance of Hillary Silver in our state, contrasting Providence with 3 other cities. It's a must-read for the Rhode Island citizen, and an example of how sociology can address our urban needs. Audrey is one of a number of our students drawn to sociology by their early experience with Carrie Spearin, and one of a few who has definitely embraced our public sociology with her video and Twitter profiles. Thank you, @oddpod_. Congratulations. Domenica Fiolna. It took me a while to figure out what I should call Domenica until she told me I should call her Fiolna. But it was in our first meeting that her and my greatest surprise happened. When I didn't hear a Spanish accent in anticipation of her trip to Argentina, I asked her origins. I responded with Boże mój. That nearly flipped her off her seat. For me to say, oh my God, in Polish was a bit of a surprise given my last name. But it was not a surprise to me to see what an extraordinary thesis she has written about the ways in which young Polish women understand contraception and sexual education. 'Twas a brilliant thesis, and one that more Poles and more sociologists and far more than their conjunction should read. Gratuluję. Daniel Fujinaka. Danny has focused on marketing and mental health during his years here at Brown and is one of a number who has expressed his appreciation for what Dennis Hogan, one of our dear faculty about to retire, has given to this university and its learning. Danny also celebrates with us another of our faculty moving on, Tyson Smith, whose class on military health is something Danny will, quote, never forget. We wish Danny well in his search for jobs in marketing and digital media. Congratulations. Michael Gallant. Michael is a dual concentrator with international relations and is another of the students whose early years were moved by Carrie Spearin and Dennis Hogan. His passions clearly lie in figuring the world, beginning this coming summer with an internship with the UN Foundation in DC. His capstone project on the economic policies of Islamic parties across the Middle East was one of the most extensively researched projects on the subject I have seen, and suggests that his chosen trajectory to live and teach English in the Middle East or North Africa and to continue learning in this area makes a great deal of sense. That is, if we want people with a great deal of sense in that field. I certainly do. I do, and I would be pleased to see Michael head in that direction, so congratulations. Rachel Karen. My children know the challenge of being the offspring of a sociologist, but so does Rachel Karen twice over. She, however, beats that nature-nurture debate out that park, actually bats it out that park. I should really be using a swimming metaphor, but I couldn't figure one out. Because she has written a really fine thesis on the OECD policies in Europe and Africa under the direction of Paget Henry. And I can only envy those French learning English from her next year, because I have learned a great deal from her over this past year. I only can hope, too, that Rachel will enter the U.S. Foreign Service, for I know we would be better off if she were there. And I also know that we'd be better off if sociologists ran the world, but we can wait for that later. Jia Kim. Jia is not only a dual concentrator in sociology and international relations, but she also did something remarkable. She came back from study abroad in the fall and managed to write a substantial thesis about Philippine-Korean international marriage and the conditions of life they face in Korea within a single term. Now, don't get any ideas, sociology descendants, for Jia has been working on the topic for many years before she wrote it up. Still, I had the pleasure of her study in our other course on knowledge networks and she contributed enormously to our common learning there too, especially on intellectual property. South Korea is very fortunate to be getting her back to work in a PR communications consulting firm, just as we have been very fortunate to have her among our concentrators. Congratulations. Ashlyn Koga. Ashlyn, look at your brother. Good. Ashlyn is not only a dual concentrator in biology and sociology, but she is also one of the most remarkable presenters I have ever seen. You should see her, too, by going to look on our homepage at the seniors' presentations of their work. In fact, that day we talked about sociology for about 7 hours was one of the best memories as a sociology concentrator she had. That day wasn't just about style, though, although I was mightily impressed by all the presentation's professionalism, not least of which was Ashlyn's. She did a systematic study of where and how seniors can get around best in Rhode Island. She wrote that under the direction of John Logan. Inspired by her own family experience, I admire how Ashlyn finds ways to turn personal concerns into public issues that can be improved. That is the sociological imagination. Congratulations. Joshan Michael Lin. Joshan Michael Lin is not a typical sociology concentrator, at least not one typical in the past, for Michael heads off to head his own startup in Barcelona after graduation. And he is not typical for his research either. In fact, Michael wrote his thesis on Chinese racism under the direction of Jose Itzikson. This was designed in part to stimulate more research on the subject, for this racism has inspired too little sociology or broader Chinese reflection on the subject. Speaking of which, engagement that is, Michael is certainly one of the most engaging of our concentrators, ready to move into any challenge, raise any argument, and extend the sociological imagination where it has not typically resided. I admire that about him, and I look forward to many a startup and many important sociology essays to come. Congratulations. Shelby Mack. Shelby exemplifies the dual commitment so many sociologists share to questions of analytical rigor and to social justice, in this case working on various dimensions of labor solidarity. Shelby was kind enough to identify one of her favorite memories as a concentrator to be, quote, my jolly spirits in early morning during senior seminar. I am a morning person, but I am not always jolly in the morning. It was that senior seminar that made me jolly, to give me a chance to work with all these great students on a wide range of subjects, and to follow them in what they will do later in life. Shelby herself is going to be working with an organization called Real Food Challenge, and doing much more than that as well. I wish her the best and congratulations. Philip Morano. Speaking of a wide range of subjects, Phil Morano's sociology may surprise you at first. He worked with Beat the Streets, a program that brings wrestling to disadvantaged middle-aged guys, that too, middle school students in Providence. And with that wrestling, bring to them the grit that it takes to succeed. Phil has that grit like all accomplished wrestlers have, but he has more. He is, as I am, from the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania, where a sense of community born in Bethlehem Steel and revived despite the Steel's demise inspires us both. 'Tis a shame that we only discovered our commonalities in this year, but it's a blessing that we have found martial arts sociology to be the place where the transformation of the self and of the community can be found. And I certainly find it in Phil's example and commitment, for it has transformed me. Thank you, Phil. Congratulations. Sophie Putka. Sophie will be graduating in December 2014 and on a different clock because she transferred here from Occidental College, but she came here already committed to sociology. I was so glad, for instead of having to explain to her why sociology would be such a good idea, I only had to explain why Brown sociology can live up to her hopes. I hope it has, especially to enhance her critical work around supporting those who have been victims of domestic violence. She is interning this summer at Safe House, New Mexico, and will be writing more about the conditions of proper support in the months, and I suspect in the years to come. Congratulations. Elena Ramos. Elena has expanded my horizons on so many dimensions, most notably with her thesis on how children and adolescents with autism use the internet. It's here that I first understood what lurking really means, in the virtual world at least. And it's also through her thesis that I learned just how powerfully social science, in combination with medicine, can help folks and their families figure out what's healthy and what's not. Thanks to Todd Levine in the med school for being Elena's advisor, and thanks to Elena for all she has given to our Common Learning Project in sociology. Congratulations. Emma Rodborough. Emma is graduating both in sociology and community health, and I am so glad she is here. She wrote a fascinating capstone fusing her past and anticipating her future in an analysis of the conditions and practices improving the well-being of memory-impaired elders, one of whom is my own mom. But it's not just the personal here. It's a common future for many of us, and I am so grateful that Emma has made this her passion and her intellectual commitment. Sociology is a critical partner for the health sciences, and Emma, just as Elena before her, shows us why and will carry that message so powerfully and so meaningfully throughout her life. Thank you, Emma. Congratulations. Wendy Rogers. Wendy is graduating in both sociology and education studies, but her contributions to our department are exceptional and is one reason why I'm so glad she is here. Our department has in fact recognized Wendy with the quote-unquote Service to the Concentration Prize. Our students in this class have also made this department something distinctive. In fact, in the Twitter parlance you no doubt have already heard, hashtag capital S, capital O, capital C, small o-o-l, what does that spell? Or? You did that. Actually, Wendy's the inventor of that very term, that hashtag. But we should also recognize her for the incredible thesis that she wrote on how class works at Brown University. Those of working class backgrounds find a very different Brown University culture than those from more privileged origins. And Wendy explains how. She explains not only how it works, but how those committed to a university that values difference and inclusion might change things to make Brown more welcoming and affirming for all. Public sociology in its finest. Wendy has written something important that will no doubt extend what we all can do and what we have learned. And she will extend that further next year as she gets her Master's of Arts in Teaching here at Brown. Congratulations. Benjamin A. Sadkowski. Ben Sadkowski. Ben brings distinction in so many ways to our department and has been distinctive in so many ways in my own life. I have known him virtually for his entire life, but only came to know him again when he, his dad, and I breakfast at Amy's place a couple years ago. Who would have known 20 years ago that Ben and I would spend so much of these last 15 months talking nonstop on embodied knowledge, on visual sociology, and how to do a carnal ethnography in Thailand and in the UK. Or that our last conversation would seek a term for that fusion of talents he has. So help us out. Take the adjective in venture capitalist and find a noun like explorer, one that captures a researcher who can recognize new settings quickly and identify their contours, gists, and representations immediately. If you have an idea, talk to Ben. Let me know too. But for now, join me in congratulations. Alexandria Sharp, Drea Sharp. Drea is filled with brilliances of all sorts. Long committed to sociology and the study of diversity and poverty, Drea's work has crossed the world from Nepal to Providence. She already inspired me with her work before senior year, but she surprised me when she decided to take on Fitspo for a capstone and consider how athletes would assess the healthiness of this program around transformations of the body. That intellectual range suggests Drea's broad inspiration and why those students in the future who benefit in her intended career of school counseling and higher education will be so fortunate. I know I have been so fortunate to have had her as an interlocutor for these last couple years. Congratulations, and carry on the intellectuality wherever you may be. Leah Stansky. Leah breaks the mold. That's not just because she's a dual concentrator in community health and sociology, but because she thinks outside the box in vitally important ways. Her capstone works to figure out why her generation does not have those discussions about end of life like they should, like we all should. But her originality does not just end there. She has virtually invented a new genre of sociology, one we might label good humor meme sociology. For how can we get the message out about the value of our conversations if we don't have the right means of communication? If you want to see the value of the conversation substantively or methodologically, follow Leah on Twitter at @LPStansky11 to see why, and to see why Athena Health in Massachusetts will be so fortunate to employ her as a marketing analyst following graduation, and congratulations. Victoria Stearns. Tori Stearns. It's only appropriate that Tori and Leah are in sequence, for I have seen them sit next to each other in classes over this whole year, just about always. But my conversations with Tori individually over these last 15 months have been remarkable by themselves. Tori is not only a dual concentrator in sociology and education studies, but one might say the analyst of her generation Y. That generation is burdened with the adjective entitled, an adjective that hardly makes sense in an economy that entitles all too few to ready career success. I count on Tori, however, to make all transitions work, for I have seen her do it, from field hockey to capstone, morphing humans of New York into humans of Brown University. If Digitas in New York City is marketing to humans anywhere, they are most fortunate to be having Tori in their employ. Congratulations. Hautron. Hautron is remarkable. His thesis, advised by Dennis Hogan on the many challenges facing Vietnam in achieving sustainability, models the kind of policy sociology we might work to achieve in development work. But it's more than a thesis that makes me find inspiration in how. His responsibility, his earnestness, his awareness of opportunity, and his pursuit of possibility inspires me. Indeed, we should all be following him more closely as he begins his work with Cora. In fact, I have begun to participate in Cora, and it is one of those social media interventions that really extends our knowledgeability in profound ways, much as Hal has done for me personally, and for all of us at Brown over these last many years. Congratulations. Neely Williams. Neely is facing some challenges getting across the laps, but she is also an artist. She is a sociologist. She is an Africana Studies concentrator and a sociology concentrator both. Neely knows how to cross boundaries when she needs, and knows how to find her place even when terrains are not so hospitable. In her thesis, Neely took on one of Brown's most controversial issues of the past year, the question of whether to divest from businesses associated with coal production, and ask whether those from coal country fit in the debate. Kentuckians, of which there are more than a few at Brown, hardly figured at all. An erasure managed by many conventional tropes of exclusion. Neely rewrote that history and has re-articulated the place of Kentucky at Brown. With her attendance next year at the University of Kentucky Law School, she will also re-articulate the place of Brown in Kentucky. I only know that her departure means that others will have to reanimate the cosmic sequence often associated with my office hours. Ask Neely what that means, and join me in congratulating Neely. Najma Yacob. Najma exemplifies Brown's sociology's commitment to understanding development in the world in critical and theoretical terms, and to the possibilities of double concentrating in international relations and sociology. Her previous expertise ranges across continents, but in her capstone she focused on the Brazilian developmental state and how it challenged our conceptions of development itself. Najma is not alone, but she also exemplifies her concentration's commitment to the public good, with her work in schools of South Providence and in the Sustainable Food Initiative. Najma has moved me to rethink how we can be simultaneously global and local in our commitments. Indeed, how we must be global and local in our commitments to exercise intellectual and public responsibility. Thank you, and congratulations. Clifton Young. Clifton inspires too. And indeed, his thesis, under the mentorship of Tyson Smith, is one of the most accomplished in a field of very distinguished senior efforts in our concentration. He is also a graduate in economics, but his organizational sociology in his thesis is remarkable. It explores how informal power works within organizations of a particular type that he knows well. And ask him about it, for you may benefit by knowing more about how to exercise that informal power yourself. Indeed, we should have him speak on behalf of our discipline more generally, for he has said this: sociology allowed me to understand society in a way that was always familiar, but yet in an entirely novel and game-changing way. In fact, Clifton returns to Singapore to be a staff officer in its military, where he hopes to put the sociology he has learned here to good use. Singapore is quite fortunate to get you back, as we have been so fortunate to have you here. Thank you. And now we have those receiving their degrees in the Bachelor of Science in Social Analysis and Research, the first of whom is Larry Au. Larry Au receives his degree today as a graduate of both history and sociology. And as your program tells you, he has written an extraordinary thesis, so exceptional that he not only won the Lamport Prize for contribution to international understanding, but won our very first ever Brown Alumni Award for Outstanding Sociology undergraduate degree. We asked 3 distinguished Brown University graduates with PhDs in sociology to review 5 nominated theses, and these 3 colleagues, Viva Pingle, Chang Kyung-sup, and Jeremy Strong, agreed unanimously that Larry's deserved first recognition, though as tough as it was to choose among so many excellent submissions. Larry not only wrote this exceptional thesis on Hong Kong protests, how to understand them, how to recognize them from within and transnationally, and how to consider their consequence, but he has also been a critical contributor to our collective accomplishment, whether in orchestrating the annual letter from seniors to the faculty, or in organizing our day of thesis and capstone presentations digitally, available for your viewing pleasure on the web. Please join me in wishing Larry well at Oxford next year, and extend with me congratulations. Christine Crow. Christine Crow. Christine's range of learning has always impressed me, beginning with our discussion of how her study abroad in Italy might shape her future learning. I was next moved by how one of my friends and teachers, a young ancient from Hawaii named Kumu Ramsey Taum, came back from a coffee with Christine, telling me how fortunate I was to have such a student. I loved learning about how she loved giving away $15,000 to a great organization through Ann Dill's Investing in Social Change course. And that admiration was not only reinforced by reading her thesis under the direction of Greg Elliott, but also because she is another of these students who have been with Greg for a long time. In fact, she attended Greg's class as a, I never knew this term, pre-frosh, and that made her actually excited to come to Brown. Her thesis, though, is something for all of us to read, all of us at least who value objectivity and scholarship. For Christine helps us to recognize the challenge of that aspiration when we don't share, whether in terms of class, gender, or other markers of difference, the presumptions of our subjects or the discipline itself. I appreciate Christine's standpoint, and I hope to remain within its penumbra in the years ahead. Congratulations. Ralica Dekova, known as Raleigh to many. Raleigh has been one of the forces animating this department's good spirit and intellectual ambition simultaneously. Maybe it comes from her breadth. As other students in this concentration, Raleigh has acquired a great range of methodological abilities, not least of which is evident in her fine thesis about which children are most likely to be immunized in her Swaziland home, a thesis under the direction of Mike White. I would like to think of Raleigh's leadership also coming from her breadth, or her key. She is one of 3 sociology concentrators to have joined my martial arts sociology course last fall, and the one who brought me back to the karate world I once inhabited. In her karate, in her sociology, I can see the power of her ki, but in her everyday manner, I can see the power of her mind, her spirit, and her embrace of the world. We in sociology have been most fortunate to have been in that embrace for these last years, and we ourselves will hold those memories tight. Congratulations. And last but not least, Jane Fury. Our last graduate, Jane Fury, is in fact graduating in December, so she might be our last graduate in the coming calendar year, but she has already completed an exceptional honors thesis on patterns of fertility behavior in Cameroon under the direction of Mike White. We are fortunate to have had Jane join us, for she transferred to Brown and might have gone into development studies given her interest in India and other nations in similar locations of the world. Jane more than found her place here, for she has developed exceptional analytical skills in, among other things, spatial analysis, one of the real distinctions of our department in the world. And not just there, she has been involved, among other things, in the Partnership in Adult Learning, a Swearer Center program, and the Brown Market Shares program, which promotes access to local foods. Jane is also part of Brown Storytellers and has participated in several of the group's performances. I look forward to hearing her someday tell stories about Brown sociology. Tell her to do so. In the meanwhile, let us offer Jane congratulations and best wishes for the future. Thank you.
Finally, I want to recognize and thank the parents, families, and friends of our graduates for the years of support and the many sacrifices you have made on behalf of the students graduating today. You are very proud of the graduates today, and we would be remiss if we did not also say how this day could never have come without your backing. I ask the students, faculty, and staff to join me in offering our heartfelt thanks for your support. I want to thank you for trusting your children with us for the last 4 years. There's a lot that we all have to be proud of. Their accomplishments are indeed impressive. I hope the families and friends of the graduates will stay for at least a while after the ceremony so that the faculty and I can personally congratulate you and the graduates. This concludes the Sociology Department ceremonies at the 2014 commencement of Brown University. Thank you all for attending this happy occasion. Thank you.